Welcome back to the Eagle Insight Podcast. This week we're talking about power. I've heard this term a lot when it comes to business and it comes to leaders, is how much power does this person have? Oh, that's a very powerful leader. It's a very powerful person in this organization. And power is an interesting thing because it's not always tied to an official position. It's not always the formal power. I had to think a lot about this, and it turns out I learned a lot about leadership when I was a little kid. I didn't realize it at the time. My parents were experts at demonstrating the different sources of power that leaders often use to get what they want done. So around 6, I was a really curious kid, and I asked why a lot. And eventually, mom and dad would get tired of that answer. That question, I'd ask why 100 times, and it would eventually come down to because I said so. Because I said so. I'm the parent, I said so. That's legitimate power. That is the power of position. I'm the parent, that is legitimate power. I also learned that when I did my chores, I got allowance, or I got ice cream, or I got to go out and play. Reward power. Oh, my parents are onto something here. And when I was a knucklehead, I got grounded or got my toys taken away. That's coercive power. And then when I couldn't figure something out, I would always go to Dad. Dad always knew how to fix stuff, how to do things. Frankly, he's still that way. He's in his 70s now, and he still knows how to figure stuff out in a way that I just can't. That's expert power. That's a power that, because he's got this expertise, I have to go to. And it's interesting. Mark Twain is credited with saying, when I was 17, I couldn't stand my father. He was such a dullard. He didn't know anything. But I went away to college, and I came back 4 years later. I was amazed to find out how much he had learned. I think now that I'm an adult, I've walked some of the same ground that my father has. I have a deeply greater respect to his expertise and his knowledge and his experience. I now consult with him regularly because he's still a major influence. That's called referent power. Referent power. Love that. Because I said so, legitimate power, it comes with your position or authority or a formal right, and it's good only as long as you have that position, right? It's limited in scope to your work or what authority you have. Like a fire chief, can't force you to be courteous to fellow employees. They can tell you to get out of a burning building. They have a limited scope of authority, limited to that position. And once they're out of that position as fire chief, they no longer have that ability to tell you what to do. Now, when I did my chores and I got my allowance or my ice cream, that reward power. Well, think about it in your place of business. If you're in a position to give raises, promotions, bonuses, or even compliments, that's reward power. That comes largely, most often, with a position. That's part of the positional power. It's one of the formal powers, but it's often transactional. If you do well at this, you will get this bonus. And there are limits. There's limits to how much power you have. I guess if you're the owner of the company, you may not have limits, but in most companies, you can only give so many promotions or you can only give so many raises. You have a budget. There are just limited things that you can and cannot do. So that reward power does run out after a while. By the way, when we mention bonuses, that's a whole separate issue, but sometimes bonuses become entitlement. If you give them a bonus every single year, if you watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, everybody's counting on that bonus. But when everyone's counting on it, it's no longer a bonus, it's an expectation. It's become an entitlement. And if you can't deliver on that, you lose credibility. Danger that goes with reward power. But compliments and gratitude, those are free. Those are free. You can use compliments and gratitude as often as you want to. Now, overuse may seem disingenuous. If you're just a cheerleader all the time and you don't also give people negative feedback when they need it, you'll be seen as disingenuous or even clueless leader. Back when I was a kid and I was a knucklehead, I got grounded. That's coercive power. Now, what does that look like in your business? Threats, punishment, even a perceived threat. I've heard people, well, I can't do that, I'd get fired. Would you? Have you asked? Have you seen somebody get fired for that? That coercive power can breed resentment and in the wrong hands can turn into bullying. Look, rewards and coercive power often go together. They're called carrots and sticks. You've heard this term. But your employees ought to be a little more sophisticated than a donkey, which carrots and sticks work. But if you're using threats and rewards in a way to control your employees, you are not leading them, or you're leading them the same way that a cart driver would lead a donkey. Think about that. Now, knowledge and skills, that expert power, my dad who knows how to do everything, that comes from competence. There is a downside to it. You could get pigeonholed. You can get pigeonholed into, this person's an expert at just that. That's all they're going to get the opportunity to do. Another downside of expert power is people who get labeled experts often quit learning. They're done. I've got it all figured out. I'm an expert. And so they don't continue to get get better. And in a changing world like ours, it's easy to become irrelevant if you're not continuously learning. Another downside is that expert power can be abused. I know something that somebody else doesn't. Now I'm going to get a quid pro quo for that, or I'm going to use that as leverage. It can be abused. And lastly, the expert power can also shut down collaboration. Well, smartest guy in the room spoken. There's no sense in having any other discussion about it. So when people in your organization are turning to, Johnson over there, who always knows the right answer, and they quit thinking on their own. They meet Johnson, the easy button, and we're always going to run over and ask him or her what the right answer is. We've shut down collaboration. We've shut down initiative and innovation in the rest of our workforce, which is a pretty dangerous situation to be in. What happens when Johnson leaves? Referent power. See, this is about liking, knowing, and trusting. It's about authenticity and taking care of troops. It's about respect. It's about influence. This is an informal power. It doesn't come with the job. It doesn't come with the desk. It doesn't come with the corner office. And if you've ever been in a complex organization, you probably know a couple of people around the building that have outsized power for the job title that they're sitting in. And I remember one specifically when I worked at the U.S. Army War College. There was an executive assistant named Lisa, and Lisa ran that installation. Now, she wasn't the general. She worked for the general. She wasn't the chief of staff. She worked near the chief of staff. She wasn't in charge of the garrison or the schoolhouse itself. But Lisa knew everyone, and everybody respected her. For sure, she also had expert power, but really the authority that she had was about the respect that she garnered from people because she took care of folks. She took care of the mission, and she made sure stuff got done right. Now, a downside to referent power is that means often it's a very charismatic leader who gets this referent power, and it can be abused. Like David Koresh, very referent power. Had no official authority over the people in his cult, but he had their reference. So there is a downside there. You got to watch for when people are like this guy so much they'll do anything, and then they cross lines. But a huge upside of referent power is it can be transformation. When somebody you truly respect is helping you develop your skills, oh, beautiful. And when they're using those skills to better your company, to help you change in a way that's going to help you keep up with changing marketplace, that transformational power of a referent leader is amazing. People react differently to different forms of power, right? There's different people who are different stages of their development as professionals or different stages of their career. There are people who don't care about improving or progressing in their career. They're transactional. I love that story about Sir Christopher Wren and going to check on the construction of St. Paul's Cathedral in London. And he ran into three people that were building a wall, and they were laying bricks, and he asked the first guy, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm a bricklayer. I'm laying bricks." Okay. And the second guy says, "Well, I'm building a wall." All right. Sir Christopher Wren says, "Okay, I can work with this guy. At least he understands he's doing something more than just laying bricks." But he asks the third guy, and the third guy says, "I am building a cathedral. It's a monument to the Almighty. That's what I'm doing." Now, they're all three doing the same thing. They're just laying bricks. But two of them knew they were doing more than just laying bricks, and one of them knew what the big picture was. Now, the guy who's laying bricks, who only wants to lay bricks, that's a transactional guy. Does he want to go see the big picture? Maybe, maybe not. I think as leaders, it's our obligation to offer the bigger picture to them. But if they don't want to take it, if they look, you want 10 bricks, give me $10. You want 12 bricks, give me $12. Okay, transactional person, got it. We need them. We need all those bricks to go in. But I'm not going to try to spend a lot of development time and development money on the bricklayer. Now, the wall builder, that person probably got some potential. They already see a little bit of the bigger picture, but they just haven't been exposed to the larger thing. Well, great. I can work with them. And then the cathedral builder, by all means, let's give them more and more responsibility because they will be able to carry forth your vision to other people. The sources of power that you have at your disposal, those 5 sources of power that we talked about, different people need different things when you're leading. A bricklayer probably doesn't care about respecting you so much as, are you going to pay me, right? So that's rewards. He just wants rewards. He just wants legitimate power that you've got. Doesn't really care that you're an expert at architecture or flying buttresses or how to do the logistics to put together a thing. He doesn't care. Okay, so let's not try to influence that person. Let's not try to use referent power. Let's not try to use rewards, or we might just use rewards or even coercion with that person. So each of these powers, it they have different targets, I guess, of the people that you're dealing with. And there's also different situations. If you're in an emergency, sometimes it's expert power. Oh my gosh, something just happened. We don't know how to fix it. Who's the smartest guy on this thing, right? And you go consult the guy who knows how to put his finger in the dike and stop the water. Find the expert and listen to them, right? That's what you're going to do in an emergency. Or you're going to use legitimate power. Everybody get down. I'm telling you, get down right now. And you have the authority to get people out of the building or into the building, whatever it is you need to do in an emergency. That's an appropriate time to use the full force of your legitimate power. But if it's not an emergency, yelling at people or telling them what to do or puffing yourself up as an expert and saying, do this because I'm the smartest guy, that's not the right time to do that when you're like trying to make it a strategic decision, right? Strategic decisions take collaboration, and that's where expert power and referent power are much more important. Reward power also helps strategically. If you want to have somebody incentivized to achieve something great, strategic to achieve your vision, great. Reward power is fantastic. What about deadlines? You've got a bunch of deadlines coming. Reward and coercion is usually the best thing for getting people across the finish line at a day. Day to day, I'd say it depends. It depends on your crew, your mission, your workplace, your culture. All of that comes into play, but you as a leader get to cultivate those powers that you've got. Now, not everybody has legitimate power, right? They don't have that positional power and the promotional and rewards and coercion power. That legitimate power comes with a position. So if you want to increase that, I guess you could work on getting promoted. You can move into a position that has that legitimate power. Or if you have enough money, you just buy the company and then you can be in charge. But that's a difficult thing to do, right? You can't always just go get a promotion. You can't always just go buy a company. But if you think about the other powers, the informal powers, expert power, referent power, you can increase them. Your expert power, you can increase by study, by certification, by continuous learning, by going and talking to the smartest people in your field and learning directly from them. You can increase your power in terms of expertise. And if you use it for good to help others, you will increase your influence, right? That referent power, people will appreciate and start coming to you for answers, and that'll increase your power within an organization. Now, the referent power piece relies a lot on influence, and to increase your influence, there are three things that you can think about. The most influential people, we'll do a whole session on this, most influential people in the world do three things everywhere, right? If you think about, just go back in history and think about the most influential people who did not have positional power. Think of Martin Luther King Jr., think of Mother Teresa, think of Gandhi. Changed the world with no official authority. Three things. First, they taught us how to think. Get us to think differently about a topic, about the world, about society than what we did before. They teach us to think. Second thing is they challenge us. They challenge us to be better. They challenge us to be more. They challenge us to achieve things that we wouldn't otherwise achieve. And the third thing is they role model. Gosh, you think about Gandhi role modeling the nonviolent protest behavior that changed India, changed the lives of 1 billion people. Those three things: influence, teach us how to think, challenge us, role model. So that's how you increase your power when you can't go buy the company and increase your legitimate power. So where is your power base? All your interactions with your employees, ask yourselves if you're using the right form of power for this person in this situation. If you're walking around every day using your legitimate power, you know what, I'm in here and I'm the boss, that's why you should do this, you're going to miss out on the opportunity to connect with people and increase your influence and your expert power. If you're always relying just on your formal power, those legitimate powers, you are going to risk alienating people who resent the fact that they don't have the power or resent the fact that you're lording it over them just because you happen to be in a position. Ask yourself as you walk around, am I using the right form of power? Can I be teaching somebody how to think differently about something? Can I be challenging them? Can I be role modeling? Can I be sharing my expertise with them in a way that's not belittling? Those approaches to gaining the trust and confidence and unlocking the potential of your employees, it's amazing the results that you'll get. Now, there's two other forms of power, connection power and information power, that are associated with all of these. I don't spend a lot of time talking about them, but networking power, the connection power, the ability to introduce somebody else, the ability to call somebody and have them pick up the phone. This is a power that's cultivated on purpose. And great leaders know how to manage their network. Information power is I know something that somebody else doesn't know. I don't like to talk about that one a lot because I rarely see that used for good purposes. I see people withholding information in organizations because information is power. If you know something that somebody else doesn't know and you can take an advantage of that, I don't think that builds a great culture within your organization. It may be useful against your rivals and a good power to have to learn first and get information first. But within an organization, as a leader, if you have information that's useful to your folks, useful to your peers, good for the company, I feel like you should share that. Transparency will give you more influence rather than the informational power. Those are the major powers that leaders deal with, that they have and they often misuse. So you take an inventory of yourself. Take a look at how you are interacting with your folks. How are you interacting with your peers? How are you interacting with your superiors? Are you trying to use the wrong kind of power when you should be trying to use influence, and then should be working on becoming a better expert in the field that I'm in? Using the right form of power at the right time with the right people is going to make you a great leader. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.